Hi, welcome to Astro Design's booth, and we are located under the HDMI banner. And what we have going on is, number one, our cable tester. This cable tester is used to validate whether your cables pass or fail, but for starters, you need a master cable to calibrate with, set up your parameters, and then once you have that done, you can test a series of DUT cables and make sure whether that meets your parameters or if it does not.
So right now it's testing this cable?
This is
8K?
a master cable, and as you can see here, the logarithmic graph looks decent and it is above the threshold line, and the module itself indicates that the cable passes as per this blue light. But let's say if I plugged in another cable, and if that were a bad cable, then the graph would not be as nice looking. It would be falling under the blue threshold line, which I'm not sure whether this camera can see. However, if that were to happen, then this LED light would be marked in red, and that would mean that it failed to meet the parameters that the user had set.
It says, I see data. There's like all these different colors are signifying different kind of
pins.
Data information.
Yeah, so every different color is representing the pins of the HDMI cable, and this is basically a decibel versus frequency graph. Now, the user can also connect this module onto a PC and use our PC application. The PC application basically displays the same graph but on a larger screen, so that would be much easier to see the results.
Where do you connect the PC?
So you would take this module off, and there is a connection that we provide. You would connect that through a USB or a cable that we provide, and then from there, once a connection is established, you can use the PC application.
And so every cable manufacturer has one of these in the office?
Yes. The reason why is, in order for them to validate their results, they would need a solution like this. Now, I would like to mention that this solution was made as an alternative for a network analyzer and an oscilloscope, which cost a fortune. But with this, you can easily test whether your cables are deemed good or bad by using this module alone as well. So once I set up my parameters, let's say if I want to test a series of cables, I can just simply take this off and plug in a cable, and it'll let me know whether it passes or fails.
Nice. There's no need to set up anything, it's just ready to test.
It's ready to test. All you would have to do is set up your parameters, and then you go from there.
Push to enter, you can scroll in the menus and stuff.
Yeah, so if you look at menu, then here you can set up your configuration to your liking. I have my graph mode at logarithmic, and then this can test up to 1,500 megahertz. On top of that, for calibration, once you have your master cable, you basically click on start. For auto test, you configure your parameters to your liking, and then you can also export the graph as an Excel or a
log file.
Yeah.
Some kind of log file, yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
log file.
So what? And then there's more here. The booth.
Yes. So this is our physical layer test equipment, whereas this over here is our protocol test solution. And what we have going on here is we would feed in in this case, a 4K 120 hertz signal onto this CLED LGE TV. And what we're testing is variable refresh rate. So in this case, the variable refresh rate is from 120 frames per second to 40 frames per second.
All right, so 40 to 100?
120 frames per second. Now the engineer or whoever wants to test VRR can configure the settings to their liking. This is also a touchscreen panel, so here you can see the parameters that we set. And while it is a touchscreen panel, you can also use the mouse to set up your configuration.
Nice. So yeah, I could choose to go down to like much lower than 40?
Depends on the television's capabilities.
All right.
Because every television has a capability of the lowest frequency that they can support for variable refresh rate. We're using our partner's cable, Nido, and what's special about Nido is that they make active optical cables. In the case of the cable that we're using over here, this is a 10-meter cable, and this cable does not need any power. The cable alone is enough to feed in the signal from the source to the receiver. What's more is that these cables, for installation, you can bend them. Typically, if you're bending cables, that's going to destroy the cables essentially. But with this, installation becomes a breeze, since you can basically wrap it around a cord or a object, whatever it might be, to make sure that your installation looks neat and tidy.
All right. A cable manufacturer, do they just test a new design once and then they make that design without testing every cable with a machine like this? Or is it a different kind of machine to test every cable? You know what I mean?
Well, for this cable, you need a master cable that you can trust. Now, we do provide a master calibration cable, but it's up to the user to decide what their parameters should be. And as I've shown, you set up your parameters. Once you have that taken care of, then it's a matter of testing whatever cables that you've manufactured. So those manufactured cables, before they go out to the consumer, you would need to test whether it passes or it fails.
With the same box or a different box?
With the same box.
That one?
This
so
one.
That would be in the factory?
Yes, this would be in the factory.
And every person that works with the cable quality assurance testing would have one in front of them, and they should test every single cable?
Exactly.
All right. So I'm guessing, is it okay if I pull it out?
Well, if you pull it out, then you'll see that the results will no longer be there because it's actively running. So,
yeah, we went around the menus just before.
There we go. So right now, if I have it running, you'll see that there's nothing there.
Yeah, but what I'm thinking also is that the connector here is very high quality, because you might connect thousands of cables to that connector. You don't want it to break in there.
Yes.
Because otherwise you use those screws and you can change the connector to have it work for a long time. You're going to maybe some factories will be testing hundreds of thousands of cables.
Yeah, well, if your solution needs repair, then you would get in touch with us and then we would go from there.
All right. All right, cool. So this is an LG
CLED.
Like a C3 or something like that?
C3 television.
And right here is LG. So
yes.
You have you have the whole industry as a customer. Everybody, right?
Yeah. Thanks to LG.
Okay.